Welcome, everybody, to the first week in July, including July 4th. This is a CIRF energy like no other. This week, of course, the big holiday, Independence Day, but we have a monster of astrology and collective influences that'll blow your mind. This week, it's a T-square on Uranus, and that's just the beginning, okay? Getting into our CIRF report here. Summary slide. All right. We've got a direct overlap on probably the most unpredictable influence that there is. And we start with the I-Ching because it says enthusiasm. And what is really strange is that when you put that, obviously you can see that there's one yang line in here. When you put that change line in, it becomes all yin. There we are again, back to yin. Last week it was the rave with yin. This week it's the I-Ching with yin as the solution. But the influence is going to be enthusiasm. And that really makes sense from a July 4th standpoint. But look at where the dream bot is. The dream bot, the collective unconscious, is seeing or wanting to explore, to mine for things, to be looking for things. And what they're going to find, what they're expecting to find, is something weird and wild. So that definitely overlaps with the enthusiasm. What about the astrology? Like I mentioned, the Uranus T-square, there's so much more on that T-square on the other points of it. There's passion, there's security, there's freedom, independence, uniqueness, eccentricism. There's a whole bunch there on that T-square. It's been going on for a week already, and it'll be going roughly for another couple weeks. And this Uranus T-square is chiseling away again at the status quo. We have several retrograde planets. We have Mars opposite Saturn. That makes up the other Uranus T-square. And then we have, which is the overlap to our circles. There are other circles, the dream bot and the I-Ching, is the Mars and Venus merging in Leo. Now, we suspected, starting last week, we already started seeing how Mars and Venus in Leo converging was starting to be the dominant energy. And that actually continues today this week, in accordance with the I-Ching hexagram 16. So all sort of interesting. If you didn't have the I-Ching and the dream bot in this, I think most people would just slide right into the obvious T-square as the main influence. And it surprises me too, but I think the Mars and the Venus bring a very pleasant edge to what could feel like a pressure cooker from that T-square. So we'll get into all the day-to-day stuff. We'll talk about the dream bot, and we'll detail out the changes in the energy according to the I-Ching, and we'll even get into the sidereal and the solution. But stay to the end because that's where the most important part is, which is the solution. And let's go ahead and get started. And let's start with the dreams. This is the dream stage, the collective unconscious, what Carl Jung talked about. And on the top of our list is mining. And I thought that was interesting for like gold and silver, which, by the way, are getting crushed in the past week or so. But mining takes a different stance here when you connect it with like guess and approach and appearance. It's like exploring, looking for something. And when you look at the green arrows, this is more about places and, interesting things, locations worth exploring. And so I'm thinking that you could connect, you could make a meme just with all the red and green arrows and just say searching and exploring. But you could probably include the blue arrows in there too, because it's wild. It's sort of negative when you talk about haunted, but you're looking at wild and weird, abuse and unknown, So it has sort of a negative context to it, but not all that negative. I think anything is just going to feel different, so different from a Uranus standpoint, so different, so eccentric that your body has to adapt to it. And it could be horrifying, could be seemingly horrifying. But if you include all those together, I think it's simple. I don't think there has to be three memes here. I think it just can be one, and it's searching for the wild and the weird. And it can be very exciting. It can be anxious, and excitement can feel like the same thing. So there you have it. Now let's get into the astrology. But first, here's where we talk about people's comments. Let us see it now says, okay, now you have freaked me out. Now, is that good or bad freak out? I hope it's the good one. Brian says the world is beginning to shift. A paradigm shift is underway. I think most of us are aware of this, and most of us can feel it day in and day out as it grinds to a different world. But he also says this is the greatest time to be alive. And he also talks about some suggestions about the inner battery and using water and voltage. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. I think I might do a video on that. Some things and some contraptions that I've found for healing. And I forget the name of it, but anyway, very powerful information if you want to look up body and cellular voltage and basic health. And shout out to Not For Me To Say, how was the 28th? Happy birthday, buddy. And I need to know how 50 turns out for you because I'm going to be there shortly. And Ravi says, as more truth comes out, people will hopefully wake up. When it is all said and done, many will trust nothing and no one, which is a good thing. People will learn to be sovereign, take no one's word as truth without doing some due diligence and verifying for oneself. I have to admit that I didn't see that one coming, but I think I see the truth in that, Robbie. And so thank you for putting that out there. Here's the overview for July, since we're entering into a new month. We have the setup here. The black circles here are representative of the T-square that's manifesting or is being manifest this week. We have Mercury is later on going to go into Cancer and then make its way into Leo. The sun's going to go into Leo this month. But the big news is all this blue, it's unusually high number of inconjuncts. And so what that means is it's going to be a month, particularly in the middle, is a month of adjustments. And that really does make sense from a standpoint of the T-square on Uranus. Lots of change, lots of adjustments, lots of insights, lots of freedom and expression and individuality. And the mad scientist, all that stuff comes out on the T-square. And that's going to end, that T-square is going to end somewhere around the middle of the month. And then just so happens you have all these adjustments that are being made. It's a big old group of adjustment right there in the middle of the month. So I thought I'd point that out. All right, here we go. Day by day, Tropical Astrology, Thursday, July 1st. Obviously, we have, let me darken this a little bit for you. We have Uranus on the point. You have two 90-degree squares down to Saturn on one side and down to Mars and Venus converging. They're within conjunction in Leo. So I'm going to talk a lot about these individual points here, but this is the big emphasis. Venus, we talked about going into Leo, which is a lot more fun, passionate, carefree, need to be seen and recognized in terms of love and beauty. So wonderful for art. But now when you get connected with Mars, it's on fire. It's very passionate. It's intimate. It's fun and loving, but it's just very, not superficial, but not real deep. And, more about bling and the way you look and that sort of thing, but fun. That's the point. Youthful, creative, adventurous, fun. And then, of course, you have Uranus. And Uranus is the biggest sign in the zodiac for all things about don't mess with me. I want my freedom. I want my individuality. I just want to change the world. I want to. I don't want anybody telling me what I have to do, and I just want to live my life. That's as eccentric as it gets with Uranus. And so with a T square normally means we're going to be cycled into this change, and it's going to be hard to get out. We call it trap. We're going to be trapped in this T square. But I have been pushing before this thing even started for all of us, if you can stand it, to just be in that Uranus, quagmire and let it just continue to grind. You're going to get insights. It's going to heat up. I talked about the hot summer, and all of a sudden we already have record highs in various places around, well, at least America, if not the world. So this is a tension producer, the T square itself, and it's a planet that wants to break out and be different. That's Uranus. So just so happens we have July 4th coming up, and much more about this T square. It just blows my mind. But anyway, you got all these influences, and plus this little hidden sextile. This is, if you see the trap, at Uranus, the only other alignment coming off of Uranus is that sextile. So that represents an outlet, an energetic outlet to the sun, which is your identity. And the identity is sort of trying to protect itself in Cancer and living behind a shell and in the deep waters of emotion and that sort of thing, somewhat catastrophizing, pulling the sheet over their heads and taking cover. But it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for the protected ego to evolve, to morph and change and learn how to care for oneself. To care for oneself as self is becoming more independent, more estranged to the status quo. All right, enough said there. Let's move on to Friday, because there's just so much to talk about, especially on July 4th. Now, as these two get closer, this energy is going to get stronger. It's going to be more passionate. You might be able to equate like dating and intimacy into that, sexual stuff. Yes, all that's in there, but it is outward. It can be art. It can be very, very, very creative when you're talking Leo. And that element of sort of yearning to be seen, expecting to be seen. And when it's not seen, there's some crying, because it's like a childlike, and we get upset and we act like little kids when things don't go our way. So then we also have Mercury. This is going to be here all week, but Mercury square Neptune. And that's just more mental confusion. Yeah, Mercury is going direct now. It's not in retrograde, but a home sign of Gemini, so very strong mentally, cognitively, processes crystal clear, except tensions arise when imaginations come in. So this can really be tricky. It's, your assumptions are bad. So you can think strong and have good logic, but when the assumptions are bad, you're going to have bad conclusions because the assumptions are wrong. And that's what this whole alignment is all about. Old dreams, Neptune in retrograde, older dreams, older imaginations, things from the past, the skeletons come in and start to shake things up with your thoughts. So that can be confusing as well. And it can just be draining you mentally. As you'll see, this week is not about a lot of thinking anyway. So it's about experiencing, it's about awareness. So using your mind not to think, but using your mind to be aware, attending to the here and now, attending to physical reality or the reality that makes the most sense to you. Saturday the 3rd. Now I pulled out from the the trial for crimes against humanity begins on July 3rd in Germany. So I thought that would, it's probably rare that people know about this. So I thought I'd include it here. And that's just so commensurate with the anti-establishment Uranus in the T-square. And the moon, look where she's at. She's getting close to Uranus, close to that T-square, creating more squares, creating more heat. Venus and Mars creating more heat, getting closer together, but more on the joyful, youthful side of things. This is the heating things up in terms of conflict and misunderstanding and that sort of thing. But emotions and change can conflict with strong desire for fun and entertainment, romance, creativity, passion. That's this growing conjunction, which is going to get on its maximum on July 4th, which is the emotional Uranus. This is the emotionally charged independence, emotionally charged eccentricism is in conflict with just going to have fun. So watch for that. And now we get into the big day, Sunday, the 4th. This is at 12 p.m. just because of our standard CIRF time. And the biggest news here, probably the whole thing, is that the moon and Uranus are together that day. So it's emotionally charged. This is where the I-Ching says it's excitement. It's profound, positive energy, but emotionally charged freedom. Imagine that. Emotionally charged freedom. That's a direct correlation, a direct metaphor between the national holiday, July 4th, and what's seeing in the stars. As above, so below. But we don't see this every year. This is not a yearly thing. This is a very special alignment, special to us. It just happens to be on July 4th. So on July 4th, you see multiple squares on this side, you see multiple squares on this side, and you see multiple oppositions with Saturn, Mars, and Venus. And so what that means, it's more than a double T-square. It means it's more energetically binding, more entrapping on that Uranus and Moon side of things up here. I suggest trying to continue to stay in that as long as you can handle that. And if you can't, well, what we normally do is go to the opposite end of the zodiac, and you've got Scorpio. And Scorpio is really about seeking your passion. And that could be very confusing to have that Scorpio sort of deep, inner, subconscious passions instead of the outward, more sexual, more love sort of passion and fun with the Leo and Venus and Mars. That'll be tricky, but it's still there and it's still differentiated. So, but I'm highly encouraging you to try to stay in the here and now, stay in the being side of things, total awareness, and stop thinking so much. That's the Mercury square Neptune. It will cause you problems. And here's what you're going to feel. You're going to should have a strong, strong sense of freedom and individuality, independence, difference. You might feel a lot of change. Then you're going to feel this part of you that is just geared up for passion and fun, and at a very youthful level. It's and youthful, I mean, doesn't go back to your past and it's like, oh, I can't do that because I remember the time when. No, it's like all that's gone for the moment, and you're just going to go have fun. Just let it go. But then you have, on the other hand, you see, this is a sort of a work balance, a work and play and work. You have Saturn on this side with security and grit and the status quo, and this is the way things have always been, and just go along with it, that sort of thing. So you got all those points of interest, but they're heating up, inner conflict, as above, so below. So you'll start seeing other people with this conflict. And so one of the goals is to not play out that outer conflict just because everyone's feeling that internally. Don't let that play out. Just remain in the here and now, aware, and in that massive, enthusiastic sort of energy that's all playing out here for the most part, minus whatever Saturn takes away from that or conflicts with it. There is that hidden sextile here worth mentioning on July 4th, and that is Pluto sextile Neptune. So it's, destruction and rebuilding of the dream. It's a great time to start adjusting, but I guess I wouldn't be thinking about it too much. You're just going to have to trust that this is happening at a subconscious level. That's Pluto. Pluto is your inner subconscious power. And so I'm not saying that this is a whole lot of conscious opportunity as a sextile, but know that there is a lot at play here, a lot at work, an opportunity happening in your subconscious. And so maybe exposing yourself to more things that are in alignment with where you want your life to be. In other words, if you want more love, more and less fear, I would turn off the news because all it is fear. I would turn off horror flicks and movies that are scary if you want less fear. So, but that's the subconscious though. And that's my point. Watch what you listen to. Watch what you expose your subconscious to. All right. And then Monday, the moon is progressing out of Uranus, but we still have those squares and on both sides. So nothing really changes, including the Mercury and Neptune and the two sextiles. Really, the only change is that we haven't talked about is the Sun in conjunct with Saturn. So there's an adjustment to the ego that's happening there, and vice versa. As your ego adapts, your status quo, your what is deemed normal or should, the tasks that you're being asked to carry out might morph and change. Tuesday, the 6th. A little bit less. The in conjunct fell away. And nothing real new. The moon's gone into Gemini. So not a whole lot of change energetically there as well. And then Wednesday, the 7th, it's the last day of our CIRF week. There is a big in conjunct that sort of takes over. And you can start seeing this aging effect of our T-square, but it's going to last for another week or so. But the new one is Mercury in conjunct Pluto. So it's an overhaul adjustment, big overhaul on how you think. And that is, this is a 2-week period of, and even longer if you include Mercury retrograde, but a 2-week period of really almost harmful thinking, not harmful in terms of negativity, but just it's hard to get accurate data. It's hard to get accurate logic. Assumptions are bad. Assumptions are tricky. It's hard to get the facts, that sort of thing. And so thinking is getting an overhaul from two of those, from Pluto and Neptune. All right, let's take the highlighter off and get into the I-Ching. This is the influence through to the 7th of July. It's basically thunder over earth, and it's exactly what it sounds like. If you can hear the thunder roaring, this is the crowd with a lot of enthusiasm. I thought for sure this, as I was throwing these coins, thought for sure it was going to be another pure yin thing, but we have one yang line, which means it's 16 enthusiasm, and this is exactly what the Mars and Venus in Leo feel like. Enthusiasm unleashes enormous creative energy. That is like the epitome of Mars and Venus in Leo. The effect is like powerful music that inspires great numbers of people, loosening constraints and sprouting new opportunities. The power of enthusiasm is best symbolized by music and dance. It is guided more by the heart than the head. That goes perfect with our square on Mercury. Okay, so getting out of your head, just getting into your heart, seeking your passion, and feel the enthusiasm in a personal relationship or in a group generates special electricity. That's a match to Uranus. Uranus being electricity. To arouse others, redouble your dedication, and dare to create an environment that is free of tension. So that's sort of a challenge this week, but we're not into the solution yet. So just hold off on that. But imagine with the significant amount of tension and squares and conflict by that T-square, your goal here is going to be is to be in that tension, but not be a part of it, not accentuate it, not externalize it. Just song and dance through your way through it. Take joy in your work. Harness the power of song and dance in your own way. That's the individuality of Uranus. All right, finally, that line 4 that we have to change, it says, great works spring from those who can awaken enthusiasm in others through their own self-confidence and decisiveness. A person who is sincere without doubts attracts others naturally. The power of such a person grows by sharing power and responsibility with others. As a result, others are willing to cooperate, become trustworthy allies and supporters. Whew, that was a mouthful. All right, let's get into the solution. When you make that change, you get all yin lines, earth over earth. That's hexagram 2, receptive power. And this is no different than last week, except it was in the rave. Now it's in the I-Ching. But clearly the universe is pointing to us for our action item is no action. It's basically just be. Great receptivity attracts great gifts and great blessings. If you try to do this week, you may miss receiving the gifts. And I'm not talking about just material or monetary, of gifts of all different kinds. Some that feel good, some that don't feel good, but blessings that enrich your soul. A natural responsiveness attracts success through support and perseverance rather than bold action. This auspicious hexagram represents the power of the feminine principle, which has not been honored in our modern world. However, such receptivity is much more powerful and healing than we think. In fact, this whole feminine principle has gotten hijacked back to, ironically, more of a masculine energy. So we do need to honor this feminine principle correctly, which is accepting and receiving. It's a receiving force, can be overlooked by way too much thinking, talking, and planning. That's the Mercury. Got to be out of the Mercury thing. You see how all this correlates? It astounds me how the I-Ching tends to point out the different astrological influences. This blows my mind. The mature feminine allows herself to be guided by a higher power and is skilled at graceful acceptance. Spiritually, her quiet contribution is highly effective, bringing a deeply felt kind of success. Be broad and deep in your attitude so that you accept everything that comes with grace and equanimity. Be receptive and spacious like the ocean. Let the river of changes flow through you. That's the Uranus, the river of changes. Strive for a natural responsiveness that is based on inner strength rather than outer show. The only difficulty with that statement is the Leo energy with Venus and Mars, sort of wanting that outer display. So according to the I-Ching, we should be basing that, try to translate that into more of an inner strength. Okay. And you will be able to go further by letting go of control rather than forging ahead under your own steam. Receptive power arises through alignment with creative power, not in opposition to it. Let me read that one more time. Receptive power arises through alignment with creative power, not in opposition to it. And that is a direct overlap of that Leo artistic creative energy. Now, as we go into our conversion zodiac, so we're now taking the tropical into the rave and the sidereal. So you could see Venus and Mars together in tropical Leo is actually in sidereal Cancer through the hexagram of hexagram 7. Now, as you can see, they're still 4 degrees away on Wednesday. They're going to continue to get closer. They're going to converge next week, I believe. I think it's on the 14th, and they'll actually be in the next hexagram over, and we're going to talk about that too. But this week is about hexagram 7 on the rave, and we're going to talk about sidereal Cancer. So if you go out to the night sky and you're looking for this beautiful arrangement between Venus and Mars in tropical Leo, you'll actually be looking for the edge of Cancer is where they are going to be, the two bright stars. All right, so hexagram 7 is the gate of the role of the self. The channel of the alpha is a design of leadership. It is the understanding circuit which leads us into the future. It is the rule of all forms. That only logic, only the tested and established patterns can be followed with any certainty. The conditioning power of this gate is enormous and has had profound effects on our collective history. That's just a little bit of background, but more importantly, hexagram 7 is called the Army. So the Army comes out on July 4th, and get this, this is exciting. It's the abdicator. This is where Mars is. It's in the line 4, the abdicator. It's the willingness to accept the judgment of the people and or the rule of law. That sent chills down my spine when I read this originally. It's the grace and the wisdom to step down for the benefit of the whole, the capacity of the self to accept the judgment of others. Yeah, sort of a gasp, sort of reading that for me. But think about it, if the leadership, I'm not the one in charge. What if the real leadership is meeting a lot of resistance? And guess what? According to this, they have the capacity to step down for the benefit of the whole. That sent chills down my spine. So the Army comes out, and the leadership who receives judgment from all the others says, you know what? It's better for me to just step down. I can't wait. Hopefully that happens. Now, as I promised, I just want to, before we get the final slide, I want to talk about what you're going to expect next week. It's when Mars and Venus actually go exact. They're going to be in hexagram 4, which is youthful folly. And I don't know what the energy is going to play out for next week, what the dominant energy is. But if it's something else, then I want to at least just talk about it now, which is when Mars and Venus conjunct in hexagram 4, it's like you return to a very youthful stage purely, and it can be extremely creative, and it's like you get these free opportunities, not to just go do bad things, but it's an innocence that's brought back, and an innocence. The intention is still good. It's not like you're wanting to harm anybody, and you don't have to harm people to get the most of this, but it's a divergent thinking place in the zodiac, and it's going to be a time at least where you'll be able to do a lot more without the fear of retribution. Okay. All right. Here, let's go to our summary slide, and as I'm getting this ready, let's look at our sponsor. Taking a breath in. Breathe. This is what yin feels like. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and so on and so forth. Following your breath, following your reality. Be the best being that you can be. Go to interzention.com for more. All right, here's our summary slide, and this is our very excited anticipation is the overall theme. Enthusiasm. You can see she has no idea what's coming, but it's exciting. And is it manifest this week? I don't know, but the energy is excited anticipation. And so being as much in that enthusiasm as you can without expecting reward or without expecting success will actually be the best success. So in review, we have the I-Ching, hexagram 2, that's our yin line. It's the receptive power, minimize thoughts and planning, work on lowering your judgment and labels, but just be in the awareness of the here and now. Rave mandala, and receive. That's the biggest part. Receive what the universe has for you and all the gifts associated with it. If you're out thinking and planning, you're going to miss some of these special gifts. So commit to this week to be in the here and now. Rave mandala says gate 7 is the role of the self, the hidden hand behind the apparent power. Overwhelming opposition forces the leader to abdicate. Can't wait. Sidereal Cancer, and this one's tricky. It has a great way of being yin, but unfortunately, Cancers tend to get pessimistic and moody, and they go into their shell and protect themselves. So what we need to do is be the best of the healthiest Cancer, which is being able to be in the waters of the emotion without thinking about the emotion, without doing anything about the discomfort of the emotion. Even, there's even a discomfort of enthusiasm or expectation. That anticipation is sort of a pressure to know, and you have to just be in that. You don't think about it. Don't expect things, especially because Neptune's going to throw fantasy and trickery your way. So there's not thinking involved, it's just being. So let's go into our summary, overall summary. And here it is. Venus and Mars converging is perfect for the July 4th energy, but nothing as significant and powerful as the big pressure cooker T-square on Uranus. Freedom, liberty, anti-establishment, eccentricism, uniqueness, change, the mad scientist, etc. All that Uranus has brings an air of powerful change, independence, and insight. Continuing from last week, the yin attitude will be the biggest attractor of success. It's the act of being in full awareness, and sidereal Cancer is actually great for yin, but you must stay out of your head. Don't be in your head. Even the I-Ching says, be in your heart. Don't be in your head. Because watch out for catastrophizing. That's what Cancers like to do, and pessimism. But just trust and enter gratitude. Rave energy says the army rises this week, which also matches July 4th. A leader will meet opposition and abdicate. I have no idea if that's like happening this week in the real world, but if we all imagine on this and create it from a creation standpoint, if we have enough thoughts going towards that, it can create that reality. And I think that would be a great thing. Celebrate successes before it manifests. Be in the enthusiastic energy, but without expectations. Just feel the vibe. Now I have one more slide for you. I got this off of Twitter as well. It's a gal named Michaela J. Whoops, hold on. Uh-oh. Well, How do I get to it? Let me find it. Hold on. Sorry about this. I must have X'd out accidentally. It's going to be worth it. I should have had it memorized already. All right. Got all my things mixed up here. It's going to be worth the wait. Here we go. It says, Michaela says, we need to have an extremely obnoxious July 4th celebration this year. And I couldn't agree more. Notice the fireworks. The fireworks are as above, so below on multiple levels. Fireworks can indicate insight. That's Uranus as well. Excitement. That's indicated in the Venus and the Mars in Leo. Obnoxious has everything to do with both Uranus and the Moon on July 4th, as well as Mars and Venus in Leo. Celebration, etc. It's all there, folks. And hope you enjoyed this CIRF report. Thanks for all your likes and shares. And please have a safe, but just wonderful, exciting, energetic July 4th. And we'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody.